Masculinity has been turned into something complex when it doesn't have to be that way. Hi, I'm Maria Paula Bermeo, clinical psychologist, and on this channel we talk about various topics and we analyze them from a psychological point of view. So if you're interested, please keep on watching. Before starting this video, I want to remind you that I give in-person and online therapy, so if you need a consultation, please feel free to reach me out on my social media, my phone number, my email. All of them will be listed down below in the description box as well. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. It will help me out a lot. And also don't forget to leave your opinion on this specific topic in the comments down below. Listen, I've taken so long to talk about this topic because even when I know how men's brains develop and work biologically, even when I have male patients, even when I interact with males daily, and I've been able to identify their most common average behaviors, I needed to look beyond. Beyond what, you may ask? Well, plenty of patients, you, my viewers, have been asking me how to be masculine. Many of you have told me that it is actually difficult for you to know when there's a huge debate online and in the real world about masculinity, because on one hand we have those red pill alpha macho men, and on the other hand we have the deconstructed baby girl non-toxic males, both trying to convince normal men that being like them is the one and only way to be men. And these normal average males are standing in the middle, not knowing who should they listen to, what's actually right, because if they act as an alpha, then society deems them as toxic, but if they act as a baby girl, well, they are gay, at least for those red pill guys. With that said, I needed to dig really deep into both of these worlds to understand where they are coming from, how valid are their arguments, how functional are their behaviors, and if any of those groups has the perfect formula for a masculinity that does not make the rest of men standing in the middle of this chaos psychologically unstable. To do that, not only I've observed and talked to the people around me, near me, but I've had to study social media as well, messing up my entire usual algorithm. So now I have plenty of wolf edits and guys wearing skirts instead of Justin Bieber clips or food recipes that I rarely try. Please like and subscribe. Anyway, after having done my research, I do gotta tell you beforehand that none of those groups have the answer and you shouldn't rely on any of them blindly. But let's dissect both postures. Let me tell you my issues with them as a psychologist, if we can take something from them, and finally answer you guys' question: how to be masculine in a psychologically healthy way. Let's start with the alpha males, that on modern terms are the synonym of toxic masculinity. What are them? According to themselves, they are conservative individuals that are convinced men should be the leaders, the ones that assume a dominant role to build society. They compare themselves to wolves because according to them, wolves' packs were led by one male wolf, the most aggressive one, which has actually been debunked as time has gone by. Wolves work collectively, so their theory is bogus. But I digress. Alphas have some key characteristics that according to them are non-negotiable. And sure, in the surface, there are things not only men, but we all should have. However, alphas have taken them to a very dysfunctional extreme. Confidence. They need to trust themselves. They need to have that self-confidence, so first they can approach women and make them feel they are the macho man, to get them, to make them feel protected, to be able to dominate and be leaders without anyone questioning them. According to them, they are so damn confident that nobody will doubt them and they will only follow the alpha just because he's an alpha. I advocate for having self-confidence. That's something we should aim to have in pro of a healthy psyche. However, when confidence is taken taken to the absolute extreme, I gotta say it turns into narcissism. And different to popular beliefs, narcissism is not an actual excessive confidence on oneself. In reality, is a coping mechanism for the lack of it. Narcissists have such a low self-esteem for plenty of reasons, but they crave power and dominance to get their revenge. Their apparent power is just a mask they use in an attempt to gaslight others into praising them, giving them attention, so they can feel validated for a while and feed their lacking egos. They act as if they were way too confident to the extent that they can diminish others just for the sake of feeling superior and special for 1 minute. That might be why they are always screaming that your partner should only satisfy your needs and shut up. They are so insecure they just want to step on someone to fix their dysfunctional self-esteem. Leadership. But they have this viewpoint of leadership kind of being like a dictatorship basically, because as you saw in the previous point, they don't want anyone contradicting them because they are always right in their heads, so that's why they are the leaders. That goes for everything including family life, hence why in there they think women should just say yes, put their heads down and be a thoughtless, empty-headed puppet. Social life is something they prioritize as well to show how alpha male they are. They have to be the imponent leaders that the weakest males, aka the betas, will have as a role model because they are so vulnerable and sissy. They basically know nothing to be the leaders. They are supposed to just follow the alpha because he knows better. That's the leadership they preach, an autocratic one in which they are the kings and don't listen to anyone. They are always right, period. Does it sound like a square mindset? Of course, in my psychological opinion, this is not leadership. It's an imposition and a tantrum. For a leadership to be functional, the one that's at the front actually wants to listen to others on their team. What do they expect? What do they think? How are they feeling? To find a middle ground, to help the whole team to find agreements so they can all set a collective goal. In a family, for example, he would want to listen to his wife, so they both, as the adults, can act for the well-being of their kids and of themselves. At work, the boss would like to listen to his employees at meetings, because what if they have an amazing idea that can benefit the efficiency of the company? What if they have the most creative idea for a new product that breaks the market? What if they come up with the most brilliant, never-seen marketing idea? In a football team, the coach will want to listen to the players so he knows in which position they feel better at, in which one they feel they have the more potential so they can help them to improve. If a leader doesn't want to listen, the team is not going to work. No one will actually want to be a part of your team. Decisiveness is also one thing that according to them they must have. They should have firm, solidified, unchangeable decisions because they are so confident, so wise that they know what is 100% correct right off the bat. If they happen to change their opinion, guess what? They are actually not alphas anymore because they changed their mind for the lack of confidence. And let's say that they changed their opinion because they listened to someone else. Then they are not alphas either, as they lack the capability to be a leader because they dared to doubt. So much so that they had the audacity to listen to someone else's point of view. What a sin. This goes in hand with what I mentioned before about leadership. It's okay to not go asking everyone's opinion for your life choices. You don't need to seek for validation 24/7. That's a fact. However, there are situations in which it is okay to not be that blunt and hear what others have to say. Otherwise, you just lack from neuroplasticity, which is the ability to adapt and learn. If you're 200% decided to jump off a cliff and your partner tells you, hey, think about us, your family, your kids will most likely suffer if something happens to you, I'll have to bear with so much stuff myself, please reconsider it, and you change your mind, that doesn't make you less of a man. That actually would mean you're a good leader because you're considering those around you and change your mind for the better to actually protect yourself and your loved ones. It doesn't make you less decisive, it just means that your mind is flexible enough to take a better, non-impulsive decision. In reality, that makes you a confident person because you've acknowledged your mistakes and trust yourself to know that you can change for the better. Competitiveness. Alphas are always trying to prove they are the best, the most incredible alphas in the entire galaxy. Now, competition is good. It can actually serve us as motivation when we want to improve in any aspect, personal, social, working, studying, whatever. However, the thing with the alphas is that they are just competing to surpass other alphas, to be the most masculine individual out there and feed their lacking egos. But that's not functional because they are actually letting their lives being absorbed by competition and considering the other aspects I mentioned before. It's not even a competition to be good parents, partners. It's a competition to see who's the biggest, most egocentric narcissist, which could worsen their already distorted mentalities, which could even harm other people in the way. Let me explain it with an example. If they are always saying that women should only be the alpha's accessories, for example, they will go around cheating on their wives, who they are already stepping on because they have to be dominant. They could be impregnating countless of other women who will have children growing up with a most likely absent father. He could also harm those children he already has with his wife because the alpha is so busy cheating and feeding his non-existent ego, having no time for them, all to prove other alphas that they are the most confident, most masculine, that can pull off plenty of women. And that is just one example. Another one could be their physique. They have to lift the heaviest to prove their masculinity to other men, and they could get injured for lifting more than they can actually lift just because they attempted to impress their peers. They have to be the most muscular dude out there, so much so that they could use anabolics or other drugs to enhance their gym performance, risking their overall health. And guess who they expect to bear with those potential outcomes? Their submissive wives, not their alpha mates, but they don't care about it. They just have to prove their masculinity no matter the cost. And now that I talked about physique, well, another key characteristic of alpha males is their physical presence, which, as I already said, is being the biggest, most muscular man out there. For them, the amount of muscle is the equivalent of how confident, how protective, how of a leader they can be, and also dictates how much space they use. The more, the better, as that dictates how mighty they are. And sure, being fit or aiming to be so is okay if it helps you to boost your self-esteem, if it makes you exercise, if it actually helps you to get that dopamine dose in. The thing with the alphas is that they prioritize their physique at the expense of neglecting other aspects. Sure, they have a muscular presence that might transmit respect, but they are emotionally absent. One, because as I already mentioned, they think everyone should be there for them, to obey them, to listen to them, but they ignore others' needs. They don't care about how the other people are feeling. Two, they see everyone as their competition, as their servants, as their pupils. There is not one single person that they can see as an equal, as a team, not even their own partners. So of course alphas are going to be lonely. Three, they think that having emotional responsibility, that being reciprocal is being a simp, a beta, and that's not optimal. Because sure, they have the greatest physique out there, but do they have the emotional connection? Do they value meaningful relationships? Do they worship things aside from those that are feeding their narcissism? No, they don't. In other words, they are so deep into their alpha bubble that they get blinded and forget about the rest of things that are also a part of living and being a functioning, contributing human being. As healthy interactions in which you you can actually listen to others, in which you can process various perspectives, experiences from others and learn from them, in which you can be reciprocal, in which you can expand your knowledge through those exchanges with other human beings. And last but not least, alphas live for independence. But as you can see, that independence may come as a coping mechanism, because alphas might be hard to deal with. No sane human being will be able to bear with such whiny and rude individuals that might want things to be done only in the way they want 24/7, so they might just push the alphas away for their mental peace. But alphas are way too confident and decisive, stubborn and narrow-minded to accept their downsides, getting stuck in denial, always trying to rationalize why they prefer to be loners, meaning that they are not willing to change and improve. They'd rather be lonely wolves in a world that doesn't get them. But don't you think that if no one is able to comprehend them, they could be the problem? Something that I've also noticed from alpha males is that they are the counterpart of the ultra-modern feminism. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I've called out these women for being mentally unwell. Of course, I'm doing the same with alpha males, especially if I see they have the same distorted ideas, the same cognitive dissonance that trigger dysfunctional behaviors. Because just as ultra-feminists, alphas first want to treat the opposite sex as an accessory. They portray the opposite sex as nasty, hypocritical, as their literal enemy. If you don't believe me, here are some posts that I found from an alpha male page. There were plenty of those though, which say, interesting facts. Girls sleep with the person they want. Boys sleep with the person who is available to them. Remember this. Boys marry the person they want. Girls marry the person who is available to them. Boys desire girls more than they need, but girls don't give as much importance to boys. What nobody tells you about women, they can cheat on the men they love. They cannot cheat the men they fear and respect. I mean, when I was reading this, I literally got flashbacks from feminists screaming,
"If men sleep around with everyone, if they only care about X standards, why shouldn't we? We feared men for so long, so now we should empower ourselves to scare them away."
Also, just as feminists, they have a ranking, a checkbox of actions to determine if you are alpha enough. You know when a female is pro-life and ultra-feminists tell them that she's not a real feminist then? Well, in the alpha world, if you listen to your wife, then you are not an alpha. Shame on you for daring to listen to your partner, Will. It's the same generalized, hateful, divisive message. But as I said before, it's contradicting, because if the alphas are saying women being promiscuous is bad, that they should respect their men, that they should be there for their partners, that they should be so comprehensive and sweet, shouldn't they act in the same way as well? If you're looking for something, if you are demanding for something, you first should be the example of that, because you'll only get what you can give. If an alpha is giving selfishness, controlling behaviors, egocentrism, emotional disconnection, infidelity, imposition, neglect, and sometimes even violence and aggression, they are not going to find a sweet, submissive woman. They will literally find someone that matches their freak, aka selfish, self-centered, rude, disloyal women. And if they are complaining about that, they are just projecting their actions on the opposite sex in an attempt to justify their own dysfunctional behaviors to avoid facing their wrongdoings and changing due to their biased, rigid perspectives. But guys, that is just the alphas. We still have modern masculinity left to discuss. What is this new phenomenon? Modern masculinity is men that are not willing to be as Neanderthal as the alphas. They want to lift themselves up to this new era in which men and women are the same. Modern males understand women don't want to be submissive. They want to be independent. That women don't want men to be cold but emotional. That women can be just as dominant as males and can lead them too. Gender roles, What is that? Modern men just know about equity, so gender roles are inexistent. Men and women can be just as Barbie, whatever you want to be. Men can be stay-at-home boyfriends and husbands too. They can cook, they can clean, they can take care of the kids as well. They can also serve their partners. They can be baby girls that are not afraid to carry a purse, that cry and just need a hug, that can break barriers and wear dresses, makeup, paint their nails, that can accept the marriage proposal from their girlfriends without having any problem. Because for them, gender norms don't actually exist. Those are social constructs imposed by the patriarchy during the cave era. So outdated. Now, I'm not gonna say some things from modern masculinity are not useful, because they are in theory, because there is this will to be reciprocal, to also partake in the daily responsibilities, to be present, to divide the weight of everyday tasks, which is amazing to have a healthy environment. There is also this will to take care of their mental health, for example, which is great because they can heal any emotional wounds they have before displacing them on other people as a partner, children, peers. They can even heal before having kids and potentially abandoning them, which we now know is detrimental for the little ones. They can learn to regulate their emotions and avoid being violent, abusive. This also reduces the prevalence of suicide, which is an improvement considering that men are most likely to commit it than women. Also, there is the self-care aspect, for example, that desire of improving their style, getting a better haircut, eating better, and more, that simultaneously improve their self-esteem, their brain functioning, their hormones, their overall mood. But, and this is a huge fat but, listen. This modern masculinity was born with the third wave of feminism, the one we are seeing taking place right now. That ultra extremist, over the top feminism in which more than equality, women want to invert gender roles completely and live in a matriarchy instead. Third wave feminists want men to be like 1900s wives, submissive, subordinated to women, with limited rights so women can lead and dictate what we all should do. They want to be promiscuous without men judging them, cause my body, my choice. They want to be those girl bosses, breadwinners, and if men don't give up to all of those things, well, they must disappear because they are misogynistic and oppressive. Many guys have fallen into this non-toxic masculinity because they don't want to be lonely. They want to have meaningful, straight relationships and have given up to this new standard for that. Many of them feel pressured because they've been told that men are evil and the ones guilty of all women's disgraces by their single feminist mothers, by their feminist sisters, friends, cousins, girlfriends, teachers, politicians, by the media, by the internet, and they learn to be ashamed of being men. They repented. They grow up or have already grown up feeling bad for being born as guys, despising it, and then they try to make it up by giving up to this feminist request. But do you know how unhealthy is that? Because society has been stopping men from being men because they resent the male figures in their lives, and in the way they are just oppressing other guys that have nothing to do with their traumas by forcing them to fit into their outrageous standards, by forcing them into being these super ultra sensitive, empathetic, delicate humans, by forcing them into hating themselves just from being men and motivating them to destroy themselves by going against their nature, their true selves, which harms their self-esteem, that makes them insecure, bitter, depressive. Maybe it even makes them question if they are even in the right body, if they are even straight. Like, they brainwash them to believe that being men is so bad to the point they don't want to be men and they just want to disappear. And as I said before, this gets enhanced if everyone is screaming, F men, let's destroy them, let's unalive them. This modern masculinity is just a way to empower narcissistic, hungry for revenge collectives. It is not necessarily about making men improve. Maybe it was that way at first when sane individuals were promoting same things as the ones I mentioned earlier, but now this modern masculinity standard is based on submission and slavery to women, to ultra feminists, which shouldn't be the norm either. Also, and on sort of a different note, I've been able to identify that aside from insecure men that just want to be approved by females, modern masculinity has been embraced by creeps that are willing to do whatever it takes to sleep with plenty of women, touch them inappropriately, to catcall them without having to force any consequence because they are feminist men that support women. I mean, if I could take one example, I'd have to take Pedro Pascal, the face of modern masculinity nowadays. He's so empathetic, so human, so soft and sensitive.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history.
He gets so excited for women's manicures.
Yeah, unanimous. As you may already know. Yeah, sorry.
Dang, bro, look at
Pedro,
that.
honestly, I've got time to keep to.
The pink.
Thank you.
Let's see what you got. Oh, they're gorgeous and glowy. That's beautiful. It's like cotton candy with a sparkle. They're gorgeous.
He embraces his emotional struggles, so much so he has opened up about struggling with anxiety, and that's why he always needs to have some physical touch. But curiously, that proximity has always been with women.
You can't leave me alone that long. That's a little too long, baby. Come on. Very codependent, very codependent. Just like I'm very codependent on film. Just para que no me abandona. I'm not letting you go.
You don't have to, baby. You don't have to, baby.
No. Let go. Thank you.
No, I would actually get emotional thinking about it because that is something that I had almost, now I'm actually welling up, I had accepted that you're not always going to find your best friends on things. You know what I mean? And I think maybe it's the magic of the comics and maybe Matt Chapman's casting that he's put us together.
I thought you said matcha.
Matcha. My favourite thing in the world is matcha, and they're always on it because I spill all over them all the time. So for me, the surreal moment is going into something that has this bigger fan base. Okay.
He's always caressing, invading the personal space of women, but he hasn't even attempted to do the same with men. He hugs men. He shakes hands with men, but he's not rubbing his hands all over men as he does with women. He's not putting his face in front of other men's face as he does with women. He's not as anxious and sensitive when he is around any male as he is when he is around women. His modern masculinity shows up only and exclusively when he is around the ladies, meaning that it's inconsistent for some strange reason, which could be that he uses that non-toxic masculinity to cross the line with feminist women because it can't be abused because he's feminist too. Allegedly, just in case. And trust me when I tell you, there are plenty of Pedro Pascals out there crossing the line with women in the name of modern masculinity. Ultra feminists allow these creepy behaviors because they are so blind to see beyond. For that same exact reason, they keep maintaining these dysfunctional behaviors, they encourage them and praise them just because they look non-toxic on the surface. In any way though, modern males are no different from alpha males because in the end, they are both extremes. They are both ways to trigger and or enhance psychological difficulties, as you can see. Then how should healthy masculinity look like? It's gonna sound so obvious, but I need to say it. Men embrace your nature in a balanced way. What do I mean by that? By nature, biology-wise, men are less fearful, meaning that they are more likely to protect, which explains why they usually are better at taking the lead and why they usually are disposed to protect their loved ones when they are in danger. They are more competitive, sure, so they are most likely to work harder to build something from scratch, getting something off the ground, showing more resilience and lesser chances to conform, something that is key when hard times come in the way, as a bankruptcy and illness. That strength is necessary. We need a captain that maintains the boat stable while others might be crying, overly concerned, scared. They are more spontaneous, making it easier for them to assume whatever challenge that comes in the way, which in a family, for example, is actually key to find reassurance and stability. And on the same note, they are more innovative and creative, hence why they might be up to build or fix stuff and prevent the house from falling down, basically, which is actually cool. I too have found the men in my life feeling more excited when they get a toolbox than when they get a birthday cake, which is funny, but it has an explanation. Nonetheless, this might help to find better ideas at times of crisis. Men are more likely to be in sort of a survival mode as well, which predisposes them to find the craziest but useful solutions, which again bring that feeling of security. And before you tell me that I'm being misogynistic, no, women actually have a more active nervous and limbic system due to their uterus, our literal ability to have children. We are predisposed to be more sensitive in general because that sensibility is needed if we happen to have kids, as we need it to properly respond to and satisfy the baby's needs. And because of that, we usually are more patient than men as well. Now, that sensibility is why during difficult times we may find ourselves being more scared, more in an emotional crisis than a man, which in terms of solving problems could take us longer than for the average male. And if we happen to be leading, well, our sensitivity may not contribute so much for others to feel secure, hence why that complement of resilience could be actually helpful. We also have a better management of both hemispheres than men, but still we're left dominant, which is more detail oriented, organized, repetitive, sequential, which makes us better at setting rules and boundaries, build routines and habits, order in general, but could trigger us when something unexpected happens, and that's why we may be more anxious than men when going through unforeseen circumstances. Again, men generally are able to take things lighter because they are more spontaneous, while for women it's a bit more chaotic as it disrupts our organized structure plans, and we are more rational than men, so us being the protectors could happen, but generally speaking we're more likely to overthink. For example, what if I get hurt? What if I pass? What if I break a bone or get bald? And by the time we're questioning all of that, well, they already robbed us, for example, while men, being more prone to impulsiveness, already hit the thief with a random stick they found on the top of a tree. I also want to add something else. There is something in our brain called the amygdala, which is in charge of processing our emotions. We all have it, but men's amygdala is larger. It has more neural connections than the female's amygdala. This means that men need actually more stimulus to feel and process those emotions, hence why they are more drawn to adventures, taking risks. That's why they are more competitive and more likely to protect their territory and actually better at providing. Also, because of their necessity of more stimulus to feel, they could be less cheesy and more practical, which justifies why their love language could be acts of service, making them again better at being the providers, the protectors, better than women could. Because women's amygdalas, our amygdalas are smaller, meaning that we could get emotional with smaller, simple things, and we could have a love language based on affirmations, details. That's just basic biology. That's who we are programmed to be like, and that is fine. Let's embrace it functionally. But going back to masculinity exclusively, what I mean by that is that basically men are men, and that's okay. Men generally like beers, men like football, men like cars, men like to protect, to provide, to fix stuff, to solve, to lead. Men like to grill meat at a barbecue. Men like to play to acrobatics with their kids. And as long as those traits are contributing and not damaging you and the others around you, as long as those traits are letting you and the people around you grow, as long as those traits allow you to work with those that surround you as a team, in which you are reciprocal, in which you can talk but also listen, in which you can receive but also give, in which you can find a middle ground, in which that leadership allows you to solve and advance, in which you protect but also have that confidence to ask for help and search for your well-being, you are doing amazing. Remember, you don't necessarily need to be an accessory, a fluffy, overly sensitive, soft man that reads feminist literature while drinks his matcha latte, but you also don't need to be a controlling, aggressive, narcissist wolf that only likes to impose and have slaves by his side. Be a functional man that can be a great gentleman, that's not misogynistic, that's being kind and polite. Be a confident man that is able to acknowledge and accept his downsides and can ask for help and advice to improve. That can acknowledge others around you are valuable and can also contribute to your growth, so you can actually be the best role model, the best pillar, and a leader of a successful team that works together and in harmony for the best. Is there something you learned from this video or something that you would like to add to the conversation? Leave it on the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and share with someone that may find this useful, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you never miss out on more interesting psychology content. Thanks for watching.